Welcome to On Fighting in Thailand, the best news and analysis covering the economics and infrastructure of Muay Thai. I'm Matt Lucas, journalist, commentator, and ex-Muay Thai fighter. Make stronger fighters, make stronger people. Today we will be talking to Brett Hlavacek and Alfredo Perez as part of our series on Muay Thai Gram. This will be the first in a 5-part series on Muay Thai Gram. The next interviews will be with Angela Chang, Jaleel Barnes, Brogan Stewart, and Omar Halal, be sponsored fighters for Muay Thai Gram. As always, if you'd like to reach me, you can follow me on Instagram, Matt Lucas Muay Thai, or email me at a.matt.lucas@gmail.com. Thanks, as always, to all the people that have supported me so far, sharing the podcast, leaving reviews, etc. If you'd like to leave a review, that would be super helpful. You can do so on the iTunes store. I want to personally thank a few people: Vinny Scotto, Patrick Rivera, Dave Brooks, Sean Madden, Wendell Galano, Chris Tran, and a few others for helping me get going when my camera broke. I am about to put out a new video behind the fight featuring Diesel FA Group. I hope to have that out in the next week or so. Just need to do the subtitling. And as always, after years of hard work, studying, and being in the game, I've decided to publish a Muay Thai encyclopedia. It is called On Fighting in Thailand, a guide to the sport in the motherland. This clear guide goes over scoring, matchmaking, picking a gym, fight styles, gambling, and more. It has a series of interviews with long-term expat fighters, including Michael Savas, Willie Whipple, Lisa Brealey, Angela Chang, and others. It is a definitive guide to help clear up questions and to help people understand the game. Thanks, as always, to my sponsors, Nak Muay Legends, for their continued support of the show. They create some great Muay Thai apparel, with portions of the proceeds going back to the legends they celebrate. All the superstars have been paid for their images as well. Check out their gear at www.nakmoylegends.com. Use OnFighting to get 15% off your order. Thanks, as always, to Patrick Rivera for helping me get this show started. He's doing some great things up in Northern California with his gyms in Stockton and that area. So the first interview will be with Alfredo Perez, who is one of the founders of Nak Muay Legends. He is a copyright lawyer and a very, very organized guy. I think the sport needs more people like Alfredo, or Fredo as we call him. Just really solid, knows his law, is really good with contracts and understanding sort of the logistics of business. The interview after that will be with Brett Hlavacek, who is a very well-regarded Muay Thai fighter on the East Coast. He's been fighting for over 20 years, and now he's changing his direction a bit. I met both of them at the same time out here in Thailand. Brett and I connected while he was on a trip out to Kong Sita. He had brought a crew of people out to train, and we got together. Then we started hanging out and talking a bit more, and I started working for Nak Muay Legends and so on. So without further ado, the interviews, and then I will do a little bit of talking about Muay Thai Gram myself. So again, without further ado, the interviews with Alfredo Perez and Brett Hlavacek. Alfredo, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate you taking your time out.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
So can you tell me a little bit about your background in Muay Thai, how you got started?
Yeah, so got to go back to 2006. I had
Time ago.
Yeah, man. I'm an old dude. I had just finished law school. I was about to start. Actually, I had started a job at a big firm in New York. And, so anyone that's worked at the big firms will tell you this, that the first few months that you're there, you gain a ton of weight, right? Because you're working crazy hours and they basically give you free food. So I was getting like pretty out of shape and, complaining to my wife about it. And I was like, I always wanted to like train a martial art. I always wanted to do Muay Thai. right?
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, back in like the 90s, I grew up in Queens, New York. And in the 90s in Queens, New York, like finding a Muay Thai gym, let alone one that I could afford, was like impossible, right? So I was like, oh man, I really want to start training, but I'm, you know, I think at that point I was close to 28 years old. I was like, I'm too old. I'm going to get like, you know, beat up by these young kids. I'm going to look stupid, and I'm too fat. And my wife was like, nah, just call around and just go. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, I picked up the phone and I called. There was a gym in New York called the Watt at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, I spoke to the head trainer there, and he was like, look, come down. I'll get you a private one of my guys, you know, see how you like it. And, you know, if you like it, then you can keep doing it. And if not, you know, no big deal.
Yeah.
Right. So fast forward maybe like a week or so, I'm all nervous. I'm heading down to the Watt. You know, I'm like, you know, I'm wearing, you know, I didn't have tie shorts yet. So I had like my goofy shorts, and I didn't have gloves. I didn't have anything. And, you know, so then, so I get in there and they pair me up with this hipster guy named Brett Hlavacek.
The king of the hipsters.
And, you know, I'm like, all right, you know, at that time he was like maybe 20, 21. He was a baby.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, he was young. And, so, you know, he put me through like, you know, 30 minutes, maybe an hour of training. I don't remember. It was tough, right? It wasn't, you know, in retrospect, it was really easy. But for me at that point in my, you know, health journey, it was really tough.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, he, you know, you know, so he put me through the training, and, you know, at that moment in time, I remember I was like laying down on the mat in the ring, and I was thinking to myself, shit, man, am I going to do this again? This is really hard.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, fast forward, I've been, you know, training since, not so much as of late because of everything going on, but I've been training since then, since '06. And
Yeah. Quite a while.
that's when the love affair started with Muay Thai, I guess.
And you have continued your love affair and started doing several businesses, including Knock Muay Legends. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that began?
Yeah. All right. So this is going to be another Brett Hlavacek story. So,
I think maybe your love affair with Muay Thai is actually a love affair with Brett.
yeah. I just threw up a little bit in my mouth. So this is about 4 years ago. We just finished training, and I think the week before we had gone to a local fight shop in New York. There's like one really big fight shop in New York, and they have a lot of really cool stuff, especially for boxing. You know, that they carry like those Mike Tyson t-shirts and those Bruce Lee t-shirts. And, you know, I go to Brett, I'm like, you know what? If somebody were to put like Samat or one of those guys on a t-shirt, man, I'd rock that. But you couldn't find that anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, we sort of looked at each other and we're like, you know, that's not a half bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And Brett goes, well, I know a guy who does design work. He's really good. At the time he was doing design work for Reebok, doing a lot of the UFC t-shirts and that sort of stuff. It was a guy by the name of Denox.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, sort of fast forward a little bit. I met Denox. He thought he could do some cool designs. So the next step was sort of finding those golden era guys that we wanted to have on shirts. And we're pretty lucky that we have a guy by the name of Kensack.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so people that don't know, he's a golden era legend, fighter of the year. He was named fighter of the year back-to-back years. And, you know, just so happens he ended up in New Jersey. So we set up a time. Brett already knew him. I didn't know Kensack personally. I'd seen him around, but I didn't know him personally. And we went out to eat and, you know, sort of explained to him what the idea was, got his feedback. And, you know, he basically said that he was down to do it. And that's how we signed our first athlete.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, since then we've signed a bunch of others. You know, I mean, not too long after that, we took a trip to Thailand which I think is actually the first time I met you.
Yeah, when you had the Hawaiian shirts on in Rotterdam there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yep,
Mm.
yep. And it was. I think that was when we ended up. I don't remember if we had already signed Samat by then or not, but we ended up signing Samat, Diesel Noy, a bunch of other athletes. And yeah, when we met you, and then sort of the rest is kind of history when it comes to Nakamura Legends. We've been in operation now for about 4 years. We've sold thousands of T-shirts, and I'm pretty proud of the brand.
Yeah, it's really cool, and obviously, it's a good thing. Giving back. Big part of why I like it is that portion of the proceeds and all the athletes are paid for their image, which has not been the case with some of the athletes like Sagat, who has not gotten money for his appearance or like his image in Capcom and other places.
Yeah, so that was one of our big things. I mean, one, I'm an intellectual property attorney, so that's just the nerd in me, right? You have to do things the right way. But we also, I never started the business thinking, I'm going to get rich making T-shirts, right? The whole idea was to be able to create something that the community was going to really dig, and also do it in a way that was fair to the athletes. So, I mean, I think to date, we've probably still given more money to the athletes than we have, sort of given it to the company. And I'm pretty proud of that. I want to sort of keep that going.
So, what do you feel you've learned from doing Nakamura Legends, and what do you think you've given to the sport by doing this?
All right, so that's a big question. So I think it reiterated some stuff that I already knew. I mean, okay, so first and foremost is you've got to give people a good product, right? And part of that is not to be greedy, right? If that means that you're spending a little bit extra so that your shirt quality is better and that it's going to last, then do it, right?
Yeah.
If that means that a customer had an issue with, a package got lost in transit, or, the size is wrong, send them another product. That doesn't matter if it comes out of your pocket, right? So just, I think the main lesson is a lesson just you could apply this to anything in life is create a good product and just do the right thing by your customers and the people that you're working with.
Absolutely.
And I think that what we've given the community is, I think we've given them some education about some of the athletes, but I think also we have provided the communities with sort of a brand that they can really sort of get around. That is not a mixed martial arts brand that decided to throw out and do like one Muay Thai shirt. It isn't a boxing brand decided to do one Muay Thai. We are Muay Thai apparel, right? We are for the Muay Thai community. So, I think that's what we've given the community.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely feel like there's not enough Muay Thai, specific companies out there. Obviously, there's some, but I think the market is there, and there's more room for more companies. And obviously, Nakamura Legends has been around for quite some time, and I think it can grow, and other companies can grow as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, part of it is the community is not huge, right? I mean, the Muay Thai community is bigger than I thought it was.
Yes, I would agree with that.
But, you have to put in the work to build the trust in your brand. You have to put in the work to give people a product that they want. And you have to be genuine, right? If you're not into the sport, you're just looking to do this to make a few bucks, it's probably better that you don't waste your time. You have to sort of be committed to growing the sport and to getting fighters exposure and that sort of stuff if you really want to have a brand that people are going to be able to rally around.
Definitely agree with that. And then let's move on a little to Muay Thai Gram. How did you begin to get involved with that, and what was sort of the beginnings of it for you?
Yeah, so I didn't want to start with another Brett Hlavacek story, but
It all starts with Brett Hlavacek.
Yeah. So I was driving down from Lion Fight. And so I live in the New York, New Jersey area, and Lion Fight usually happens up in Connecticut. So it's a pretty long drive down. And I get a call from Brett, and he says, "Hey, are you familiar with Muay Thai Gram?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." Because it's been around for a while, and it was a pretty large Instagram account. He says, "Well, the person that runs it is looking to do something different and wants to sell the business. Are you interested?" And I said to myself, "Nah, I can't. I don't have the bandwidth to get into another business. You know, what do I know about social media except for the stuff that I do to sell T-shirts?" And I was like, "Nah." It's like, no, man, I'm not interested. So we hung up, and I had a buddy in the car with me as we're driving down, and we're talking about it. I'm talking to my buddy, and I'm like, "Yeah, they have a pretty big audience. It'd be cool. There's a lot of cool things that we could do with that. You could, I have access to athletes through Nakmui Legends. Brett has a relationship with Lion Fight, which is a really large promotion here in the States, and with a lot of the gyms in the area. And then by this time, you were already working with us on Nakmui Legends. It's like, man, we have Matt out in Thailand, and he's got a ton of connections out there and a ton of stuff he can create." So by the time I made that 3 to 4 hour drive down, right, I had already talked myself into it. I said, "Oh my God, this is such a great opportunity."
Yeah.
We could really take something that already has a built-in audience and, create the kind of content that we'd like to see more of out there. So, I called Brett. I think shortly thereafter, Brett got in contact with you, and the rest is history on that one too.
Yeah, for sure. And so it's been almost a year now, like 8 or 9 months, right?
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Almost a year. So what are some of the things that you want to do with Muay Thai Gram, and what do you hope to accomplish?
So I think one of the main goals from the beginning was to create original content that was different and, sort of geared to things you wouldn't really see in any other outlets. We wanted to sort of minimize the amount of reposting that we did and maximize the amount of original content, whether it's not just learning how to perform a specific skill, but also history of the sport, cool stuff like gambling in Thailand. Talk a little about where the sport is now with companies like One. And we also wanted to make it into a venue where we could get exposure for up and coming fighters that might not necessarily be household names. And I think that we've been doing that with guys like Jaleel, with Angela, Omar, Brogan. And pretty proud of that. So same way as with Nakmui Legends with the shirts, I wanted to make stuff that I wanted to wear to represent what I was into. I want, and I think we're doing this, Muay Thai Gram to have content that I like, the kind of stuff I want to see, things I want to learn about.
And what sort of stuff is that specifically?
So for me, I've been to Thailand a few times, but there's a lot of the nuances of what it's like to actually train and fight in Thailand that I have very little experience with, right? Even gambling. Obviously I've seen the gambling happen. I've never done it, right?
Yeah.
And in retrospect, I kind of wish I thought I was going to be able to get to Thailand this year, but with everything going on, that hasn't happened. I kind of wish that last time I was there, I would have gotten to do something like that, right? Then I've only really trained like at one gym out there. So it's kind of nice to be able to see people that are training at different gyms, all of them from other, either from the States or from somewhere else, right? That have basically relocated to Thailand, and sort of get their insight as to what it's like to fight there, what it's like to train there, what it's like to live there. I think there's a lot of people here in the States. I think almost everyone that trains Muay Thai here in the States wants to make it out of Thailand at least once in their life, if not more.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, and I think, and I mean, I've been there multiple times, and I, hope to go back. So to me, I love to see that kind of stuff, right? Because it's stuff I haven't been able to experience, and it's different. You don't really get. I feel like you just don't get enough of that, right? Of sort of what's going on in the smaller stadiums and that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. What do you think that Muay Thai Graham has accomplished, and how has it changed in the last 8 months since we started taking it over?
Yeah, so I think the content has been great. I've gotten a lot of feedback from people talking about how they really like the direction that we've taken the business in. And, I've got to just so everyone is clear here, I'm really behind the scenes. I do mostly the legal work, the business, all the boring business stuff. The content stuff is all Brett and Matt, and they've done just a phenomenal job.
Are you just saying that because you're in love with Brett?
And with you.
So really, your projects are just love affairs.
Basically, yeah. Don't tell my wife. It's. I mean, I think if I had to pick one thing that I'm most proud of is, I think all of the sort of spotlights that we've been able to do, like on Angela, Jaleel, all of that sort of stuff. I think that has given those fighters exposure and hopefully help their career some. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Mm-hmm. What do you think are some things that could be improved on?
Oh, that's a good question. So there's always room for improvement, right? I mean, I think one of the big things and is in interacting with our followers. I think it's part of it is the way Instagram is structured. Sometimes it's not the easiest to interact with people because you mostly do it through comments. And, the team is we don't have a giant team, right? So, that makes it kind of difficult. But we're working on other things. I'm hoping that through some of the other media that we're looking to build, I'll be able to do that. But I really think it'd be great if we had more interaction with our fans. Because, I don't just want to put content out there that I want to see. I want to sort of know what other people think and what they want to see. Because, there may be something I haven't thought of that I do want to see, right? That someone comes up with. So really, if it's one place where I could see us making more improvement is just having more interaction with our fan base. Whether that's, I really like this piece of content. Oh, well, why didn't you ask this question? Or I would have asked this. Or, I mean, I even like the questions I know you get these questions all the time about best places, where should I go train, sort of stuff. I even kind of like those questions because they can be kind of informative hearing some of the answers. But I think that would be the one area I'd like to see improvement in, more communicating. And aside from that, I just want us to continue to build out content, not just on, obviously the IG page is the main portion of the business. But it'd be, where we started a website, MuayThaiGram.net. So people should check that out. A YouTube channel. So there's other places where we are moving media to that may lend themselves better to doing things you can't necessarily do on Instagram. So, I want to see us to continue to build those out and hopefully get some of the audience that loves us on Instagram to move over to those platforms so we could increase the amount of interaction that we have with them.
Yeah, obviously we've started the website. What are some of the pros and cons of having the website, and in particular, some of the articles we've done so far?
Yeah, so the biggest difficulty of having the website, I think, is that none of us on the team are WordPress wizards. So I think the biggest issue with the website, for me, has been technical. God knows, like just adding certain things to the page, it's been like insane. Like how many lawyers does it take to screw in a light bulb, sort of thing, right? So that to me has been the most difficult part. The articles, I'm biased, but I think all the articles have been very good and very well written. I think the biggest issue is getting, like I said before, getting more people to come onto the website, sign up to the newsletter. We're not going to spam you. If you go to the website, you read the blogs and you like the stuff that we're putting out, you're going to like, what we're going to put out next month too. So you might as well sign up for the newsletter and, get some good content. And if at any point in time you don't like it, then, you could unsubscribe. But, to me, that I just like to see more people on the website. And, we only launched the website a few months ago, so it's still pretty early.
And what you said, one of your proud points was sort of gaining exposure for some of the athletes like Jaleel, Brogan, Angela, and Omar. Why are you so proud of that? And what are some of the ways that you feel Muay Thai Graham has helped them?
So anyone will tell you that this is a sport that's really hard to make a living in. I think in a lot of ways it's easier to make a living at it in Thailand, obviously, than it is here in the States.
Yeah.
But if you are making the move and the decision to get up and leave the States, right, for an indefinite period of time, that's a pretty major sacrifice, monetary and otherwise. And, you could only fight for so long. So whatever we can do to help these athletes get sponsorship, put a little extra money in their pockets so they could focus more on training and, really make the most of their careers. I couldn't ask for a better purpose behind the company, right? If you love the sport and you want to see the sport grow, then the only way that's going to happen is if you support the athletes. Yeah. Right. And, just by reading the articles, liking the articles, following those athletes, you're going a long way to helping those athletes basically push forward their careers by being able to get sponsorship, get more exposure, potentially get bigger and better fights. So basically that's what I meant by why I'm so proud of that, because I think not only is it helping those fighters, right, but I think it's creating opportunities where if those fighters are successful and can really make a go at it, then another kid here in the States may make the decision to go out there to Thailand, and that's just going to help the sport, right? Yeah. Getting better athletes out there and really putting in the training and growing the sport.
And you said you've seen some changes already. I know it's early. Usually, at least for me, I feel like to make an impact, it takes about a year for sort of a movement or a social media entity to gain any sort of traction for people to know about it. And then it's in the second and third year that it really starts to change things. But you said you've already seen some changes because of Muay Thai Graham and some of the work you've done. What have you seen and why?
Yeah, so this is a little anecdotal, but I have a lot of conversations with people in the industry related to Nak Muay Legends, right? And I think it's not a secret anymore that I'm involved with both businesses, and I've had a lot of people tell me, "Oh man." I had a conversation about 2 or 3 weeks ago with a pretty well-known supplier of fight gear here in the States. And they were like, "Man, we really love what you're doing with the page. It's the content is original. It's really great stuff. They're interested in advertising with us, which is great for everybody. So it's a lot of it has been really anecdotal, people telling me, "Oh, that's really cool." And, a lot of people have been on lockdown too. So, the lockdown has been awful, obviously, but we're all looking for more content now that we're on lockdown. I know I am. And, I think we've been able to provide something different for people. And I think it's hopefully helped some people with their mental health, right? Just to be able to sort of read something they're interested in and something that they really like. So, I'm hoping that we're making an impact that way, but people have told me that they really like the content. They think it's refreshing to see people not just reposting, but actually making new content, stuff out of Thailand, stuff. We did some stuff, some sort of stuff on gyms in the area, stuff like that. People have, especially the stuff in Thailand, people have been very positive about that because it's, unless you live there, you don't really, I don't even know, Matt, if you really have the appreciation for it because you're there and living it, right? And we're, the rest of us are stuck over here, with gyms having been closed for the better part of this year,
Yeah.
So I think in a lot of ways we've been an outlet for people, giving them something different to look at. And I'm hoping, like you said, that it'll really pick up traction in the next year or two. What's going to really help us out is if people let us know what they want to see. Right. Matt's out there in Thailand. We're here in the States. We have access to a bunch of different athletes, whether from the golden era or, current athletes. Tell us what you want to see and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, that actually reminds me, maybe I should do gym tours. Because I'm so used to like walking into these gyms all the time. It's very, very normal for me. Whereas for a lot of people, they never see these places. Like, I can walk into PK Sanchai and there's Tawan Chai, like, whatever. Sanchai is there, bossing Prajan Chai around because he has a boxing fight, whatever. Walk down. FA group isn't far from me. Obviously, I'm seeing the people at Fairtex all the time, and it's just like very, very normal for me.
Yeah, so that's something, that's what I was getting at, right? It's normal for you because you're there, right? But the gyms are very different the way that they just generally look and operate here in the States versus in Thailand.
Yes, that is definitely true.
Right, and I think a lot of people, especially when they haven't made a trip out there yet, right, and don't know where to go train, I think it'd be very helpful to sort of get an idea, not just what the gym looks like, but what the gym vibe. You know how every gym has like a vibe?
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And you kind of, it's, unless you're there, it's a little hard to sort of get a sense of that. But I mean, the next best thing is to have somebody sort of walk you through and get a sense of what's going on there. Some people are going out there and they want to like train super serious and some people want to go out there and just sort of have some fun. Some people want to have some people don't know what they want. So I think giving people tours, so you can see some of the trainers and some of the shenanigans that are going on and that sort of stuff would be really helpful to people here in the States, especially because I think, as soon as this coronavirus thing is over, man, like I have a feeling the gyms in Thailand are going to get packed because everyone's going to want to get back out there.
For sure. Hopefully. And just wrapping things up, was there anything that you want to talk about that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
So I'm going to ask you a question.
All
right. What has been your biggest surprise to date about working on Nak Muay Legends and on Muay Thai Gram?
What is the biggest surprise? I don't know. I mean, like the thing I really, really like about working on both of these projects, and I think one of the reasons why I'm so into them is how much I've learned. There's, one of the good things about Nak Muay Legends is that I do the community management for it. So I'm always looking at people's Instagram, and it's given me a way to keep tabs on people, mainly in America and foreign countries, and understand like what they're going through. And then doing the work on Muay Thai Gram, especially creating some of the original content, has been like really pushing my boundaries a lot. Obviously, now I'm doing interviews that are subtitled in Thai with female athletes and people that a lot of people in the West don't know. And I learn a ton from doing these. There's technical things that I learned, like in terms of placing, where to place an interview subject, questions to ask. There's technical things about, okay, the lighting, the microphones, and those are all very, very valuable lessons. Even like the editing process is a very, very good thing to learn. And then there's the actual content of it, which can be really, really interesting. And when you interview these people, you become a lot more connected with them. So, now when I go anywhere, because I've interviewed people, like everyone knows me. Um, and I feel like I'm a very big part of a community. So I guess that's maybe one of the most surprising parts of it for me. It wasn't like an intentional thing, but it's definitely something that's happened and that I'm really happy to be a part of.
Nice, nice. Well, that's good to hear. It's been a blast working with you so far. Hopefully, it'll be many, many more years.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Fredo.
All right, thanks, man. Stay safe.
Hey, Brett, thanks you so much for coming on the show today. How are you doing?
Doing good, Matt.
Good. So tell me a bit about your background in the sport. I mean, you've been in Muay Thai, in the world of Muay Thai for almost 20 years now, right?
Yeah, just about that. I started training in Muay Thai when I was probably 10 or 11 years old. And then I started getting amateur fights when I was like 12. And I fought through my teens into my early adulthood. And then I decided to go professional. And I've been fighting professionally past 10, 12 years or something like that. And at the same time, I'm also training and teaching people on the side.
Where did you start going professional? You ended up at the Watt for a big chunk of your career, right?
Yeah, so I would say I went professional in 2010, I believe. And yeah, that was with Phil Nurse at the Watt in New York.
Yeah, it's the Watt is closed down, or is that the rumor?
It's from what I hear, they're just changing locations. A lot of people, they don't have access to their gyms right now, so the smartest thing to do is kind of close temporarily and open back up when all the gyms are opened back up and the market probably settles a little.
Um, can you tell me a bit about your career in the sport in terms of your professional fights and I guess some of what you've been doing in terms of teaching?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I career-wise, I captured the WBC national Muay Thai title. I actually fought Cyrus Washington for that fight. I then went on to win the WBC International Challenge belt, and that got me into the world rankings to where I'm sitting right now with the WBC ranked fourth in the world. And at the
Mm.
same time, I was competing in Lion Fight, and I was able to capture the North American title, two different weight classes, and I was with Lion Fight for a good chunk of my professional career.
Hmm. Who did you fight for the WBC international belt?
Harry Baker.
Uh-huh.
He's actually cousins with another guy, Bernie Mendieta, who I actually fought, and I believe Kevin Ross fought him on a Lion Fight in Las Vegas a while ago.
Yeah, that must have been 7 or 8 years ago that he fought Bernard,
Yeah,
Byrne or whatever his name is. I remember
Bernie.
that
Yeah,
fight.
yeah.
I think it was after Kevin had come off of his knee surgery.
So yeah, Kevin came off his knee surgery, and I fought Bernie. I would say 165, 170 pounds, and I think after that fight, he decided to really start concentrating, and he cut all the way down to fight Kevin Ross. I mean, we're pretty
Yeah.
different in size.
Do you remember that fight between him and Kevin Ross?
I remember I was actually working, but I think I was following on my phone on the side. But from what I heard, he actually gave Kevin a great fight. I mean, Kevin was coming off he had a long layoff, I believe, the knee surgery, right?
Yeah.
So there was a little rust there, but I mean, he kept up with Kevin Ross. It was one of his better fights for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And so what about your career right now in terms of fighting? Where is it at? Like you said, you're ranked fourth on the WBC in your weight category.
Yeah, so I'm currently sitting at fourth, and before um, the COVID shutdowns and everything happened, we were supposed to have a fight in New York City on the Warriors Cup with Chris Tran, and that fight fell through obviously because we were in the middle of shutdown. So I was supposed to fight in March, and that was going to be for the WBC International title. And me, career-wise, I'm kind of winding down. I'm definitely fighting a lot less, but I still feel like I'm somewhat competitive for the next couple of years. I'm going to stick around, but
Hmm.
if I have a couple bad fights, I'm okay with retiring.
And Chris Chen is the WBC rep in America. So who did you say you were going to fight on that show?
I was going to fight the WBC Canadian champion, Simon, and I forget his last name. It's not on the top of my head. Um,
Mm.
Not
The
Simon.
the Simon guy just picked up his belt off of a Kieran Kettle show.
Yeah, the Muay Thai World Cup, I believe it is. But yes,
Yeah,
he was their champion, and then we got approved for the WBC, so he was going to fly out, and we were going to fight. And I think 2.5 weeks before the fight, was supposed to happen, we had to cancel everything and shut down.
yeah. Is it? Do they have plans at all in the future to reschedule, or it's all up in the air still?
I mean, coming from me, I'm not 100% in the know, but nobody can do anything. I think they just announced in New York City in this area that Broadway plays aren't even going to be back until June 2021. So I'm assuming any kind of public meetings like that, whether it be fights or concerts or Broadway plays, might not go off until at least the summer. But the
Hmm.
second we get to open, I know they're eager to still continue promoting. So I'm excited, but it's just a waiting game right now.
Yeah, and while you've been waiting, and just in terms of your career besides fighting, you teach regularly. Can you talk about that for a bit?
Sure. I mean, I've always taught Muay Thai and fought professionally at the same time. I never really had a 9 to 5 job. I'd rather just be in the gym all day. And if I could make a career teaching and a career fighting, I'd rather do that than work in an office. So I've taught through my whole career at the Y at Anderson's martial arts, and also I currently teach in Brooklyn. I'm not really going into the city right now. Nobody's really traveling, so right now I'm based out of Bushwick, but I'm just concentrating on private lessons right now because the group training setting isn't really working. So right now we're just uh, teaching privates and just trying to stay afloat until we get word that we can open back up 100% and compete and spar and do all those other things that a group class would benefit from.
And in terms of teaching, what do you like and dislike about it?
Uh, I mean, I wouldn't say there's not too much I dislike. I mean, you might have some needy clients here and there, or some days, you just don't feel your body's up to it. But other than that, I have no complaints. I love it. I love connecting with people. I love teaching people what what I experience and passing on knowledge. And I really believe in Muay Thai, and I made a career out of it. And it's not going to stop here. I'm going to still be involved in many different levels.
And one of the people you've taught is Fredo, who is your partner in Knockmoy Legends. I talked to Fredo a little bit about the background in the company, but can you talk a little bit about it as well? Not only the background, but sort of what you are doing with it.
Sure, yeah. So I mean, yeah, Alfredo was a longtime client um, for me, well over 10 years. Um, and at the time, we were looking at running an actual blog just on fights, news, interviews, and stuff like that. It was going to be a sports blog. And, we were running into some problems with that. And at the same time, we were also always talking about doing some sort of apparel company. And me and him came up with the idea, to start Knockmoy Legends. And he's definitely more professional. He has experience in running businesses and contracts and stuff like that. So it worked out perfect because I kind of knew who we could talk to, and Fredo just knew how we could talk to it and how to do things legally and be an operating business. Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, it's been 4 years now, right?
Yeah, so I think 2016 or so.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
yeah,
what
it's been 4 years. Yeah.
what have you gotten out of helping run the company?
I honestly, I'm just proud that we're putting out a product that, every shirt we make, I like, I enjoy, and I get to work with one of my good friends who's our designer, doing something and creating something that I actually like and putting out that I'm proud of is the biggest, that's the best feeling that I get out of it. And it's great working with these old fighters. I mean, these are guys I looked up to in my career when I was training, when I was younger, and now I get to work with these guys and, create something that they're proud of also.
Yeah. Of the guys that you Nakmoy Legends works with, Kensak, Diesel Noise, Samart, Sagat, and a couple others. Do you have a favorite guy in particular, or?
I mean, I always, Samat was my biggest inspiration. So, I mean, it was amazing going and being able to talk to him and work with him on designing a shirt. So for me, that was huge. That was, like pretty much peaked right there. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
And that was pretty early on in the company as well.
Yes, he was one of our first. Kangsak was one of our first, and Kangsak became one of my very good friends, and he lives in New Jersey, so he's not too far. So I've been able to connect with Kangsak for years. So to be able to finally collaborate and put out a really nice product for him was awesome.
And have you seen the Muay Thai community or seen change at all because of Nakmoy Legends?
I think people are buying the shirts because obviously they enjoy the designs, but also it's these athletes are getting paid for us to use their image, and I think that's something that a lot of people should be paying attention to because there are some cool T-shirts, there's some cool designs out there that you can get anywhere, especially if you go to Thailand, but copyright laws exist now, and the people who design that piece of artwork or who is that fighter or that athlete that you use in their image, they deserve to get paid, especially in this sport where there's not a ton of money right now. So I think it's appropriate. Everybody should get paid for what they're doing.
Yeah, I definitely think that while there isn't a ton of money in the sport right now, there is a growing amount of income coming into the sport. Because there's businesses starting like Nakmoy Legends
Of
that
course.
are standing the test of time. It's interesting that you talked a bit earlier with Fredo about starting a blog or like sort of news program. And obviously you are a part of Muay Thai Gram. Can you talk about how that came about for you?
Sure. I was in Connecticut for one of my lion fights. I was fighting. It was my last fight, I believe, for a lion fight, and we just heard through a couple of friends that an already pretty reputable Instagram page, Muay Thai Gram, was going to be up for sale. So me and Fredo decided, why not? Let's do it. Like I said, before, we always wanted to do this blog, and I'm always interested in the interviews, and I think it's really cool to have some sort of sports channel, that spotlights everything on, you know, amateur, professional, and even legends of the sport. So we picked that up, and now that's currently what we're working on. So it's almost like the best of both worlds. Now we have the apparel company, and we have the sports blog type news thing that we're working with.
And what is your aim for it? What do you hope to accomplish with it?
I don't want to be like a flash in the pan. We want to be around in 10 years doing the same thing, just on a bigger level, delivering. I mean, you're doing great, with these interviews. A lot of these repost sites, it's great to see a technique, but doing the small interviews and the original content on the site is what's really gratifying. So hopefully we're still around doing it in 10 years, just on a bigger level, bigger budget, reaching more people.
And what sort of work do you do on the site and sort of project itself?
I'm doing some behind the scenes work. We're trying to get some sponsors for our sponsored athletes. I also do day to day posting and interacting. And when we're not closed down, I also try to work on some original content with you, but that's mostly your division.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
what sort of things have you learned from doing the daily postings and sort of the daily work?
It's a lot more work than you would think. You think just picking up this page, you just make one post here and there, but you have to be on, posting and being consistent and interacting with people and answering questions, because that's what we're there. We're not just there to post something cool and not answer questions or interact. Well, why is this there? So you have to be constantly connected. And for me, that was something that was definitely, and it still is. I'm still learning to work with it, but I mean, I'd rather do this than be laying bricks. So I'm 100% in. So Yeah,
Well, you're laying bricks. It's a social media foundation.
I like that. Okay, yeah,
Yeah, a house built on the internet.
sure.
I mean, I'm joking a little bit, but I think it's true to some extent.
No, I agree. I mean, even when you talk about it, it's about the long game. I mean, that's one
Hmm.
thing you've been telling me because it is something very new to me, and you have experience with this. And I thought maybe we could just pick this up and boom, we're in. But there's a ton of work that goes behind the scenes and in front, with making a page that actually has constant, original content, interviews, and is current.
Yeah, it's something I learned a lot, or I just learned a lot from working on Knockmoy Legends as a social media manager for the last
For
couple
sure.
years. Just like looking at the internet, looking at Instagram, looking at all the different people, you learn a lot about sort of the community, especially over a long term, especially when you engage with them.
Sure. I mean, and it's just like fighting, right? You want to go and learn from the best or learn from somebody else's experiences so you don't have to make those mistakes. And the second me and Alfredo decided we were going to do this, it was pretty much I pretty much said, I'm like, we're not going to do this unless we're going to be able to get Matt because you have the experience. And like I said, you kind of came in and you were able to get us a little ahead of the curve, just
Mhm.
because we're beginners in this. You've been doing it for a long time. So, we wanted to bring you in and, like I said, learn from your mistakes and make it a little easier.
Yeah, it's definitely hard work, but if you want to do it, you have to learn. I think a lot of times from the ground up as well.
Sure.
Doing this stuff like posting all the time, figuring out what the content is going to be, making content schedules, like all that sort of stuff. It's the same thing as learning the basics in boxing.
Of course. Yeah. Just like anything. Was was Fairtex or Nagamori Legends your first kind of foray
Um,
into that?
Actually, I did Max Muay Thai.
Oh, yeah, you did FA Cup too for FA group.
Yeah, FA group. I built up FA group from like a few hundred to like I think when I left it was like 10,000 or 8,000,
Hmm.
and I built Max Muay Thai up from like 20,000 to like 80. I
Hmm.
have to look at my numbers,
Sure.
um, and then obviously Knock Muay Legends is I think it's like 14 or something now. I don't really
Yeah.
pay
Yeah.
attention to the numbers that much, to be honest.
Sure. It's just being
um
consistent. That's what builds numbers, right?
yeah, it's mainly the consistency, engaging with people, and just being there, showing up
Sure.
all the time.
Sure.
Oh, what are some of the sort of like disadvantages, or what do you see are some of the things that can be improved on with the project?
I mean, just like anything. I mean, if more time, I'm still trying to juggle teaching full time right now. Alfredo has his priorities and you have your priorities, but we could always have more time to do more projects. Right now, I wish the country was open a little more so we could get more content from the United States. It's something that I think the site we really need to grow internationally. Thailand, you have it covered. I mean, you're getting great stuff, and you have access to athletes and gyms that are open. Right now, we're not open technically, so it's very tough to get new and current content out in the states, which is something that we want to work on and kind of really build on is our United States audience.
Yeah, the site itself or the Instagram itself started in the States and definitely has a strong presence there. Have
Sure.
Have you seen any changes or heard about any changes because of the takeover?
I mean, just positive. The site has more substance. It's going in a slightly different direction where it's less pop culture and current events. We're covering all sides of the sport, which is great. We're working. We have some of the legends that we have from Nakamura Legends, so we're going to be able to work and get content from them. But we're also getting content from current fighters and something that we wanted to get into and you're working on it firsthand is sponsoring athletes too to help them with their career and using our platform to really springboard their career.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And
yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Nope, I'm good. Sorry.
How do you hope to change the sport with Muay Thai, Graham?
I think it's already changing. We're giving athletes, just give them our audience, and hopefully it can launch their career. Because nowadays it really is a big part. Is, am I selling tickets? Am I a promotable athlete? Am I exciting? All those things you have to do, and being on social media and the internet is a huge part of that. So you can actually get out and promote yourself. So hopefully we'll be able to work with more athletes and keep their careers going and help them out, and at the same time still put out really good content.
Yeah, one of the things that I at least hope to do, not only with our sponsored athletes, but other athletes, is just to teach them how to appropriately promote themselves.
Absolutely, and that's a huge thing. I mean, I'm learning that also firsthand by working with you.
Yeah.
So
I feel like at least my career was somewhat stymied or held back because I didn't really know how to promote myself correctly. And then the other part of that, so there's a lack of knowledge. And then the people that are promoting themselves, I don't always think that they're promoting themselves in the best way.
sure. I mean, also you have to take into account, because I'm the same way. Like, I got a couple years left, so I don't really need to start this huge promotional campaign for me if I'm not going to be around too much longer. But um, sorry, the sport has changed in the last 10 years, where it really has all shifted to promoting and being able to film every pad session, film every fight that you have. Back then we didn't really have access to that, so
Hmm.
we have to change with the times, and I can see people are too.
Yeah, well, I would actually say that, it's important to obviously promote yourself in your career and fighting, but it's also important to promote yourself like outside of fighting as well. Or like, for someone like you that is
Mhm.
going to transition from fighting into, something else, probably into more work like Muay Thai Gram and doing more like background stuff in the sport. It's important to promote yourself in those areas as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I feel like not, for a lot of people, the career path is like, okay, I like fighting. Okay, I fight, and then that's it.
Sure.
But there's other avenues for people to pursue, like refereeing, judging, being a journalist,
Mhm.
being a photographer. I think it's important to sort of open up that field of possibility for people as well.
Absolutely, and that's going to push the sport in the right direction and bring more money in and more opportunity for everybody. I agree with that.
Just wrapping things up, was there anything you want to talk about that we didn't talk about?
No, I mean that really does cover it. We're just really trying to concentrate on building Muay Thai Gram and Knock Muay Legends. I mean, we're just in the middle of the crazy times right now. A lot of people are shifting from, being in the gym to actually being online. They're doing all their training online, and we really have to kind of up the game, and uh, that's where all the people are right now. So, yeah.
That's where we need
I
to
don't
be.
Yeah, I don't know what I was going with that, but you know what I'm saying. Everything's kind of shifted to the. You can cut that out, I guess. Everything's shifting to the internet now, so we need to be there, which is true.
All right. Well, thanks so much for your time, Brett.
All right, dude. Later.
So that concludes the interviews with Brett and Fredo. I just want to talk a little bit about my background with Muay Thai Gram and how it came to be for me. I first got involved in journalism through a now defunct website called My Muay Thai. It was started by a Thai American named Napadon Wangkapi, who I still talk to this day. He was training and fighting out of Fight and Fitness in San Francisco, We became friends. When I first went to Thailand back in 2005 or so, I wrote my very first article for his blog. His blog was very popular at the time. He was doing it as a proof of concept to show that Muay Thai could become popular. He did a combination of both original content plus sort of popular content. So he would post fights and also write about his own experiences. He would have guest authors like myself, who were some other people. John Wolcott, who is now a staff writer for One Championship. I believe Laura Dalfara, she definitely wrote for him. She was a big part of it, and she went on to do a good blog called Milk Street Blitz Bomb, and a few others. So it was like a very, very good learning point for me, just getting my feet wet, especially at the time. A lot of things were focused more on writing, so it was a good experience for me. Later on, Mai moved on from the project. I continued with it. It was a little bit more of a labor of love. It wasn't bringing any money in, but I was still passionate about it, and I did some good interviews. Coincidentally enough, I interviewed Rob Cox for My Muay Thai a long time ago, and that basically got me my job at Max Muay Thai like 8 years later. Because I'd interviewed him and stayed in the game, then when I moved out to Thailand, he recognized me as a hardworking journalist. So the benefit of it didn't come up right away, but definitely helped me out later on. Then when I moved out to Thailand, I started working for West Coast Muay Thai. That lasted about a year. I did more photojournalism, photo essays. So that was really good for me, and I really appreciate Galen's help with that, because I learned a lot of valuable skills, including layout design, how to create sort of magazine layouts, how to do stories. It also taught me a little bit about money negotiation as well, because it was paid work. Then I went on to do some freelance writing for Vice magazine. I acquired that position through Frances Watana. I would help her with some articles and also got my own pieces published. So again, both of those things really helped me out. It was when I was working at FA Group, so I was definitely had a lot of access to things and people, which helped. Later on, I would start working on several Instagram accounts, of course, FA Group, which I grew from a few hundred to a few thousand within the space of about a year or so. I worked on Max Muay Thai's Instagram account for about a year. And then once I left FA Group, I started working on my own Instagram account, which 2 years ago was about 800 and is now 5,000. Around the same time, I started working for Nak Muay Legends and some other companies. Working on Instagram accounts gave me a very, very good idea of what the sort of demographic of Muay Thai is like and what they're posting. I think a lot of times people, when they post on the internet, they are not always shielding themselves as much as they might think. Especially when you look at someone over a long period of time, you can sort of see an arc to their social media presence. I do think that people curate their social media presence. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is sort of up to you to decide, but it definitely happens. I curate my own social media presence. There's things that I will post about and things that I don't post about. I don't really post that much about my personal life. I do post, when I do things with friends. I try and give myself a little character in my life, but I am not that intimate on social media. And some people are. Some people put their sort of heart on their sleeve, and that's okay. That's, their sort of style. But working on these Instagram accounts really showed me a lot about how people are presenting themselves on social media. It also gave me a way to follow along with people and sort of see the way that they were growing their own social media presences and accounts. So it's been a great experience doing that. We started Muay Thai Gram about 6 or 8 months ago. I think we've really taken the site and Instagram in a different direction, which I think is really interesting. I think we're forging new grounds in the sport. One of the things I'm really proud about that Fredo was talking about was sponsoring athletes. So the sponsorship with Muay Thai Gram is a media sponsorship. We're not giving them money right now, although we have been able to help negotiate fighters to get money. So, for instance, we have gotten Jaleel Barnes some monetary sponsorships for each fight. We've helped Brogan get sponsorships with Pride. We've helped Omar get sponsorship here at Fairtex. Angela Chang, we've done a lot of stuff with her, of course. So part of it is the exposure. Exposure is necessary to get sponsorship. If you are not out there, if you're not pushing yourself, people are not going to recognize you. You need to show that you are present and that you're giving back value. I think that's a very, very important thing that I learned from all of this work. Muay Thai is a business, and it's important to understand the dynamics of the business of Muay Thai and business in general. Understanding business things will help you grow your career as a fighter. So one of the things that I think sponsoring fighters is really important is that we are learning and sort of helping fighters grow their careers, which means, we're one step ahead of other people. A lot of times fighters do not have career plans. They don't have direct goals for what they're trying to do. They don't understand how to save money, where to spend it. They're not really investing in themselves. And this causes a lot of problems with the growth of the sport. Something Patrick Rivera says a lot and that I agree with is that if the business of Muay Thai is grown, the sport will grow. I definitely agree with that. And if we can build the business side of fighters and build the business side of media, we can build the sport. So that is why it's important for me to grow fighters and also grow Muay Thai Gram. So the long-term plan for Muay Thai Gram is to basically do exactly what we're doing. We want to monetize it more, which we'll see how that goes. We do have some paid clients right now, which we're very happy about. And, of course, we are getting more money going. We feel like the more money comes into Muay Thai Gram and into the sport, the more successful we can be. That said, I feel like we are already successful, and I feel like I am personally already successful. The reasons why I think Muay Thai Gram is successful is that we have immediately helped people, and we have helped them both in short-term and long-term goals. So, for instance, a very simple thing that we did with Brogan was we planned out things to do for the year. Very, very simple thing. Okay, Brogan, what are our career goals for the year? What are the career goals for 6 months, 5 years? Where do we see ourselves? So one of the career goals, and we'll talk about it in the interview with Brogan, was getting him sponsorship. The second thing was getting him on one championship. We hit both of those goals within the time frame. I feel like having goals is very, very important. And by hitting those goals, you show yourself success. So those things made me really happy. The other thing about Muay Thai Gram that has shown success is that we've impacted people's lives. We have, helped out underexposed people get exposure, create new skills, do new things. So for instance, Helen Tran's She Fights project is getting a lot more attention than it would have if it was just her. We're also learning new things. Again, with Helen Tran, we recently did a Muay Thai photography tips shoot. Other people like Boom Watana has talked about his photography. So it's not just fighters either. So, and we did the series with Rob Cox, who is definitely an underrated part of the sport that we really, really want to highlight. We did some really fun dinner with Rob Cox videos. So to me, that shows that the site and what we are doing is a success. For me personally, I feel like I am successful because I'm doing what I want. I'm not making a ton of money. I'm pretty clear about my income right now. It's about $2,000 a month. It is growing year by year, but that makes me very, very comfortable out here in Thailand. I take a nap every day. If I want to have a few beers, I have a few beers. I work out 5 or 6 days a week at a Muay Thai gym with high-level fighters. If I want to fight, I can fight. If I don't want to fight, I don't have to. I am able to help out a lot of people, which to me means I'm successful. So the big part of Muay Thai Gram and the way we are growing it is understanding the style of its growth. And we are doing things organically, which means it's qualitative growth. We're focused on creating new quality content, which means that there's not always going to be a big sort of change or not a noticeable change right away. In my experience, it takes about a year or two for an Instagram account or a project to really sort of develop itself and to see any sort of real change. This is similar to a business. It takes basically a year for people to recognize a change in the business. Then the second, third, and fourth year, that's when things really pick up. It's a lot about building momentum, and I believe that Muay Thai Gram and what we are doing with the project is slowly building momentum, and I'm very, very excited about that. I'm also very happy that you have stayed listening this long. I'm going to wrap things up. And so, once again, this is the first in a 5-part series on Muay Thai Gram. I will be interviewing Angela Chang, Jaleel Barnes, Brogan Stewart, and Omar Halalbi. This has been On Fighting in Thailand, the best news and analysis covering the economics and infrastructure of Muay Thai. I'm Matt Lucas, journalist, commentator, and ex-Muay Thai fighter. Make stronger fighters, make stronger people. Thank you.